Welcome to the Heavy Lifts podcast. This is the show for those who seek opportunity and embrace the risk to build it. I am your host, Nat Borchers. You can find me on backlinerealestate.com if you want to find out more about what my team and I are doing in the Salem, Oregon community. Welcome to the show, Mr. Wayde Elliot. I am so excited to have you on our show, Heavy Lifts, because just the way that you connected with us was like, shows me the kind of human being you are. And Ashley from your company reached out and via email and was just like, hey, like we are investing in downtown. I see that you are doing the same thing. Like, can we connect? And I was like, oh my gosh, like what a great way to just to say, hey, like we're coming into town, and you obviously did your research. So on that note, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate just reaching out and connecting with you. I think we share a lot of the same values, which I'm a big value guy, so I appreciate that. And I was very intrigued by your soccer background. It's amazing.
But you weren't intrigued by AJ though, right?
He actually said AJ who when we started today, but we're gonna get to know each other.
I love that. AJ who? We call him the transmitter sometimes. Yeah, it's great to have you on. It's great to have you, my friend. We've been in the trenches this week with a lot of different things. Clink grand opened last Friday, which was amazing. Here we are. So I'd like to just get off on the right foot here also with your background. And I want to just talk about, like somebody like you who like you exude, I think, a lot of success and a lot of good energy. And I can tell you've been to a lot of these like, upper level, like, just like achievers type of places, right? Conferences and, success with other entrepreneurs, right? And you're in real estate, but you also had dentistry in your background. I want to go like peel back the layers. I want to go back to Wayde in the youth and kind of start there. Like what was your childhood like? I know you were raised by a single mom,
Yep.
right? And I want to just kind of go there, start from there, and see where this goes.
Yeah, so I'm the only one in my family to ever go to college. I grew up with no money. We did not have money. We're probably upper lower class. I was provided for. I had, the basic necessities, but, Kmart was our shopping. I don't know if you remember Blue Light Special.
Yeah.
Seeing the Blue Light Special. And
where were you? Where did you grow up?
So Redland, which is a small town just outside of Oregon City.
Yep.
And then I moved to Beaverton for high school. I had a lot of really good mentors. So a family friend was an orthodontist, and he helped me with the belief like that it's possible to be a dentist. And I'm such a big belief guy. And if we get time to talk about beliefs, have so much passion for beliefs, but he gave me the belief that it was possible to be a dentist. And that's kind of where the seed was planted. And from there, it was always just moving in that direction. And I think after graduating from high school and meeting with the School of Dentistry, getting kind of a wake-up call, like, looking over the transcript saying, you have no chance of going to dental school with your grades what you've done. And that kind of was a wake-up call. I moved back home, turned it around, started to get good grades. And
But what year was this? This was high school, like junior year?
Yeah, no, it was after I graduated. So I went to Mount Hood Community College my first year and kind of moved out, finding my footing and screwing off a lot and not getting good grades. And then after talking to the dental school, I realized that I had to kind of buckle down and get serious about it. And I had that belief always. The good friend of the family was playing in the back of my mind, like, you would be a good dentist. You have good social skills. You are good with your hands. You would make a great dentist. So that kind of started the journey. And I was an alternate at the OHSU School of Dentistry and ended up getting in. Someone dropped out. I got in, and then that's where it started.
So it started with a mentor, though, basically, who was in orthodontics.
Yes.
And it's interesting. I never asked you this. Do you have a mentor as well that has been like got you into like just an industry, like other than your mom, of course?
Well, yeah,
Shelby, we love you, Shelby. Yes, She's amazing.
No, short answer is I'm sure there was numerous mentors. My biggest mentor in my life is my grandfather. but there was no focal point. So when you said you'd be good with your hands, you'd be getting into dentistry, the communication to me was, you have a good brain. Learn how to work with your brain and not with your back. And so the belief with me was learn how to work with your brain and not with your back. That's what sunk in. I'm so curious. I almost don't want to go past this, though. When you stopped on beliefs, and I'm going to go one step, but I want to focus in, like, what is that? Well, I'm not even going to lead you. What does that mean?
The AJ questions are the
Yeah,
best.
no, what does that mean?
I
'Cause
love it.
you clearly, it was like an hour you could spend on beliefs, but like try to encapsulate, what does belief mean to you, and how do you plant that seed in others of belief?
Yeah. So, we have all of these beliefs growing up, limiting beliefs and beliefs you can do it. And I think most of the beliefs that we're faced with are what we can't do and what you shouldn't do. And those are limiting beliefs. But what I know to be true is your beliefs lead to your thoughts. And we all have between 60 and 70,000 thoughts every single day. And most of those thoughts are about what we don't want. Your thoughts lead to your emotions or feelings. Your feelings or emotions lead to actions, or actions most often actions you don't take. Your actions then lead to your results, which then tie back into your beliefs. So it's this cycle. And I think that if you start off with the beliefs about what you want and really good beliefs, your thoughts are going to be around that, not limiting beliefs, right? Like how I can't do it. That leads to you feeling good, which forces you into taking action, getting the results, and then those good results reinforce that belief. So that cycle can either work for you or against you. And
Yeah, I think we're all limited by, sometimes limited and sometimes not limited based on like how we grew up, right? So like I look at my experience. I grew up in a middle class family. Both parents were teachers, right? And so they were always like, I was only child. They were like, go do what you want to do. They always supported me, but there wasn't like a sense of like entrepreneurial freedom that is like different from like being a teacher, right? And not that there's a right or wrong, but it's a mindset of like what you can and can't do, and you're taught that at a very young age. So I'm curious, like now you had this mentor, and you're on the precipice of like running into dentistry, right? Getting into dental school, right?
Yep.
So how did you get across the finish line there and start getting into practice?
yeah, so my grandfather was a big mentor of mine as well, but a different type of mentor. He was about hard work and, do the right thing and be a good person. And he remarried, and his new wife said, there's no way you're going to be a dentist. And I think that fueled the fire. Like, you know what? I am going to be a dentist, and I'm going to prove to you that I can do it. So I think it can work both ways.
Yeah.
Like someone
Oh,
telling you
100%.
can't do something. And if that belief is strong enough, it just fuels the fire and adds gas to the fire and really elevates.
I agree with that 100%. I feel like when I was a professional athlete, there was more times when somebody told me I couldn't do something that fired me up than when they said, oh, you could. Because it was like, when they say you can, it's like, oh, they already believe I can do it. I'm not upset about that. But when they're saying you can't do it,
Yeah.
it really like
Adds
just gets
gas to
you going,
the
doesn't
fire.
it? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%. So where'd you end up going to school?
So I
dentistry
went to
school?
OHSU School of
Yeah.
Dentistry in
Okay.
downtown, or
Yep.
before it was up on the hill, and now
Yeah.
they moved it down to the South Waterfront. But
Okay.
yeah, I was in the old school up on the hill.
Yeah. Okay. I gotcha. And just dentistry school, is that like a 4-year program?
It's a 4-year program. I did a residency at a hospital after that for a year in Oklahoma City at St. Anthony's Hospital,
Okay.
just to really explore, did I want to do surgery or, some other specialty in dentistry? Because I got to do a whole lot of that and realized I just wanted to focus on dentistry. And I think all along, even I had another mentor growing up, Jerry Wilson, who founded Soloflex. I don't know if you guys remember Soloflex, but it's muscle machine, and it was rubber bands and weightlifting.
Wait. It reminds me of like Goonies, when you had the older brother who was like working out. You remember when he was on the chair and he's like doing those pulls, and then they wrap him up and they run off on their bikes. You remember that scene?
I don't remember that.
I know
It's
it,
great.
But I immediately went to the Bowflex commercials, so it had to be the same time. Or
It was
before
before
Yeah.
Bowflex.
So
and
we're
then
talking
Bowflex.
what year, what era are we talking about here?
So
don't
that
wanna
was
date you.
After dental school, and when I was just starting to get going, probably in undergraduate and dental school. Like he,
But like what year? Like, are you talking about?
so I'm going to say I graduated in 95 from dental school.
Yeah,
So
okay.
probably 91
Okay.
on.
Yeah. Okay. I
Yeah.
got you. All right. That makes sense. I'm trying to date the the soul flex.
Yeah, you're dating me.
Yeah. It wasn't. We didn't go as far back as I thought, which is great.
He was in mid 80s.
Yeah, I know. I was like, well, yeah. I was like, well, that's even better. Okay, so so you decide that you're gonna like just go into practice then,
Yep.
right? And are you based here in Oregon, or because you went to Oklahoma?
Yep.
Sounds like to do a little bit of work, but
Yep.
yeah.
So I came back and bought a practice in St. Helens, Oregon,
Oh.
which is on Highway 30 on the way to the coast.
Oh, yeah.
And I practiced dentistry for 20 years
Wow.
in that location. Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. And you know what's funny? I have a few dentists in my life. You have a couple. I can think of one right now in your life. And I feel like there's a theme with like there's a consistency, right? With that business. What is it about that in that 20 years? What were your like takeaways from running that business?
Yeah, I call myself a recovering dentist because, you know, throughout the life cycle, I knew that I didn't want to trade time for money.
Yeah.
And so I was always interested in real estate. And towards the end, I got more interested in it and had some really good mentors that helped me with some, actually a patient in the practice helped me do my first self-storage project, which was a huge deal. Helped me with some of the metrics and what to do and what to look for and what to avoid and that sort of thing. And helped me with my belief. Like you can do that. You don't have to trade time for money being a dentist. And on one patient, one procedure, I was working on a patient doing an upper second molar all the way in the back, and I felt a sharp burning pain in my neck. It radiated down my right arm. My right arm went numb. I couldn't finish the procedure. I had to have my partner finish the procedure, and that was the last day I did dentistry. So I think, you know, whatever you want to call it, God, grace, infinite intelligence. I had talked about doing real estate for a long time, and I think that there was a higher power, whatever you want to call it, kind of forced my hand. And then from that moment on, that's when I really dove into real estate and really doubled down and focused on.
I got a question before we move on.
Okay.
I do too. I got somebody.
Oh my gosh. My wife went to Mount Hood Community College,
Okay.
a hygienist. Spent
Okay.
15, 16 years in the dental industry.
Yep.
I've gotten to know a number, like more dentists than I ever thought I'd know in my life.
Yep.
Went to conventions, right? You
Yep.
rendezvous, this, that, and the other. And your brain does not work like a dentist. Is this new? Or did your brain become more business minded with real estate? Or did you always have a business mind? Because you have a business mind.
Yeah, I think I always wanted more than dentistry would provide. And so therefore I was always hiring coaches and bringing in consultants into the dental practice from the very beginning. I was always going to, you know, higher education, and it's expensive, right? Like I would take, you know, hands-on cosmetic classes where you actually go and do the procedure on a patient. And it was, you know, 20 grand. And at the time when you're getting the practice going, it's a lot, but I was always into learning and growing. I believe if you're not learning and growing, you're dying. So I think I had that mindset very early. And I think the business acumen really started to develop towards the end, right? Like you don't know what you don't know, right? And then you don't know. And I knew that I didn't know about business and real estate development. And so then I started to learn more, and then you know. And then now I almost feel like I don't know that I know. It's like dentistry. I could do dentistry in my sleep, and I feel like I just assume that people do real estate development how we do, and it's not that way. It's special. Like there's the team, and big attribute to the team. Like they really do the heavy lifting, and so it's a lot of them. And we have a learning culture in our business now, even now, for all of the staff, and I still do a lot of learning and growing.
Well, did you like as a, you know, you touched on like trading, you know, hours for dollars, right? And that's a lot of what you're doing when you're, you know, in an industry like dentistry. It's like you have to be there to make it work, right? You also have to, if you want to grow, you have to be there to make it work as well. And, you know, you have to lead, and there's all these things that come into it. And you get into real estate, there's more opportunity, I think, to be cashing checks while you're sleeping, right? To be cashing checks while you're on vacation. Not that it's easy at all, but it certainly is. You don't have to necessarily be there on the ground to do that procedure, right?
Yep.
So I want to talk about like your leadership skills, because I can tell you're a leader, And what did you learn from dentistry? Because I don't want to like write off dentistry because I feel like you're like 20 years, it's like gone. But like, I had a 14-year professional career, and I have so many takeaways from playing professional soccer, and so many takeaways from, leadership, and, the things you can translate from there. Like, what did you learn about leadership as a dentist?
Yeah, so we had a staff of 9. We had 3 hygienists, 3 front office, and 3 assistants. So
Is that considered like a mid-sized practice? Like in the scope of dentistry, like what would you consider that?
We
terms
were
of
in the
size?
top, I mean, our numbers were in the top 10% of all practices across the country in a tiny little town of St. Helens. So, I mean,
Like just like revenue?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we did a lot of things right. And it's a attribute to the team, right? Like we were very intentional in hiring the right people and bringing the right people in. And I'm a big culture and values driven leader, if you will. And I think that really helped, right? If you guys are all rowing in the same direction with the same core values, it makes leadership a lot better. And I'm not a babysitter. Like that makes me crazy, and I don't want to babysit. So I think it's getting the right people on the bus and in the right seats, right? Like getting everybody rowing in the same direction.
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, let's move into real estate. I'm curious, how did you, like you said, you had a mentor with real estate that kind of got you into the game. At what point in your like dentistry career were you like, I have to get in, like I need to get in, or what was the first bite?
Yeah, I think I was held hostage in dentistry because, I was working 3 days a week, making $350,000 a year, which is a really good career, but I was capped at that. So I was kind of held by the golden handcuffs of, it was scary to get out. And that's why I believe a power greater than myself is like, okay, you've talked about this for 3 or 4 years.
Was that a heart attack or what was that?
It was the spinal fusion surgery in my neck. So I blew out 2 discs in my neck, and I've got a couple plates like this big in my neck. And,
Oh gosh. Okay.
all of the surgeon and everybody said, you keep doing it, you're going to blow out the one above and below. And like, it wasn't in the cards to keep going and doing it.
Okay.
So
yeah.
that was the injury that kind of took me out,
Right.
forced me out, and scary. And it was super scary because I didn't, I'm not where I'm at today. So it was, a journey. I just kind of dabbled my feet in real estate and getting going. And I think what really tipped the scale was we had a good exit on one of our projects that we converted, and it was enough to get me some comfort. Like, okay, now let's start building the team and really double down on it.
And was the first project, was it self-storage that you guys got into?
It was in the town of St. Helens. So it was very close. And that was the patient that kept coming in. And every time he would come in, I would sit and talk with him to the point where my whole schedule would be screwed up. And my hygienist would be, 3 hygienists are standing over me like, hey, you got some exams to do. I'm like, this is important. I got to hear what he has to say. And so I would really talk to him and get the information from him. So that was my first project.
Yep.
But the second project is really what kind of solidified the map. And the first one was a self-storage car wash in St. Helens.
Okay. So you got that first one done. Was it an easy project? Were you just like point and click? Did you have partners? Like, how did you structure it?
Was I say I got my PhD in development. There was wetland issues. I had to move highway access. We had to get a culvert underneath a railroad. Like dealing with all of the agencies. I really got my PhD on that first
railroad,
project.
I mean, wetlands, right? But,
ODOT, the highway, moving a highway
Greenway,
access.
ODOT, railroad.
It was
And
nuts.
and the fact that I know what a culvert is means I am a real estate geek, just like yourself. Though, yeah, and it's good that you got that on your first deal. I feel like I didn't. It took me like probably a good 15 years before I even got into development. So I didn't even get that like taste. It was just like residential to apartment buildings, right? To development finally. So it's amazing that you just jumped straight in. Most people wouldn't do that. Did you own any other like properties at that point in time in terms of like investment, or was that the first?
I had another multifamily project, but not the same scope, right? It was, I just bought it at a discount where it was getting foreclosed on. So nothing the same. And I think what really helped me is I'm a half full type of guy. I'm an optimist by nature. And when I was doing this project, you don't know what you don't know. And I just kept grinding and doing it and going through the agencies and making the calls. And now we have someone on the team that makes the calls. Val is so good at being pleasantly persistent, which is what I had to do and I hated doing. But you don't know what you don't know. So I just kind of went through it and did it, and it came out great, but it was a grind.
Yeah,
Literally.
oh, man. You're speaking me and AJ's language right now. I can see his eyebrow twitching. I will give kudos to Val and Ashley on your team. Just, you get a sense for a leader's culture based on their team and how you interact. And like, I've reached out to Val a couple of times for just like, some references, and just like the quickness with which she is reciprocated is awesome, as well as, of course, the way that she's responded as well. And Ashley's been amazing too, in terms of like, communications and making sure that, everybody on our team is aware of what's happening, everybody in your team, so you built a great team so far. So can you just tell us about the second deal then? So your first deal was like PhD. The second deal, was that just like, jumping in the river and swimming a couple miles and you're good? Or was it a little harder than that?
There were some challenges. So we bought the old 84 lumber building in Forest Grove, and it was a building that had sat vacant for a long time, and nobody really knew what to do with it. And I went in and saw a 50,000 square foot building that we would convert to storage, and I saw a bunch of overhangs that they would store lumber under. I'm like, those are RV storages. And then we added buildings as we filled it up, and we just keep adding buildings. And that was the one that was really successful. There was some challenges, but nothing like the first project. It was way easier.
Okay, let's.
Is that a timeout hand? Is that what that was?
I want to diagnose this. The real estate broker wants to diagnose this. So, what year did you buy it?
Oh, so that would have been maybe 15 years ago, something like that. So,
well, but 15 years ago, 2010, 2011, 2009. So there were good buys. Right?
Yes.
In real estate, generally speaking, you make your money on the buy. If you're paying top dollar, you generally have a different. You make your money on the buy.
So that building, I think, was listed originally for $8 million, and it sat vacant forever, and I paid $3 million for it.
And then,
How many square feet?
It was a 50,000 square foot building on 15 acres, I think, and there were some structures and. Yeah.
And so you were able to focus your energy on the building itself, get that stabilized, and then incrementally go through that 15 acres and add value, add value, add value,
Yes.
add value. What was the duration, start to finish, on that project?
Oh, that was a while ago. I think it was a 3-year process.
Bingo.
Okay, so that was fast. Yeah.
Well,
Our adage is everything takes 3 years. When you run into problems, you have a big struggle overcoming, right? The big red tape, it could be 4 or 5,
Heavy
6
lift.
years.
You have a heavy lift.
Yeah. But yeah, I would say
Ding,
real
ding,
estate
ding.
in general, that's the toughest thing to train people is that everything takes 3 years, right? And that you're not going to get
In
a
development.
dollar out of it.
in development.
Really,
Yeah.
for 3 years in development.
Yeah.
And even redevelopment, like this building and that building next door is an existing building. And I think here's a good example, and this isn't negative energy, right? But an existing building built in 1954, we went through a review, and the city came to the table. That was very positive, to come meet with us. We learned that we've had 170 permits this year, and there will be 240 permits before we're done. On an existing
That's brain
building.
damage. I just heard brain damage with that many permits.
yeah. We're like,
240
how do we-
permits.
And the conversation was just like, this isn't just painful for us. Like, it's painful for your team too. And if you're understaffed, like, how do we work together? Because there's there's something unnecessary here that isn't being dealt with on that level, right? And that's part of the heavy lift too, is being willing to not. I call it there's competition and cooperation, right?
Mhm.
And I like to call it a cooperating broker, not a it's not an adversarial relationship. Like, our job is to try to figure something out, and like, you do that well. You already put me in a lull when you sat down, right? Like, you build a relationship. I'm friendly. Let's learn together. Let's grow together. But I think that culture sometimes gets missed because of stress.
Mhm.
And I mean, to your point, your communications with his team, swift, friendly. How do we make it happen? And this goes back to growth in the very beginning. And I would argue the new word for it is manifesting. Manifesting is positive thoughts. And if you go really spiritual, right, like prayer, and it's
Meditation.
it is often thinking about what could happen, the belief of how to improve versus the constraint.
And vision is hard for a lot of people to see. Like, you come into the buildings that you guys have rehabbed, Not everybody could see the vision. Not everybody could see the vision in the Statesman's building that we rehabbed and
right.
repurposed. Like it sat
Oh.
vacant for 4 or
I
5
looked
years.
at it for 3
Like,
years.
Right.
I was like, good luck to whoever grabs that.
Right, and I want to get to that building
Yeah.
because there's some intricacies that I really want to hear about, and I want to get AJ's brain on it. But to what we're talking about, like the heavy lift, like the way I think we look at things in like the development world is like it's like you have this big rock that's in your path, right? And you're looking at this rock, and you know that if you can find a way to move this rock or get around this rock, there's a few $1 million right on the other side. There's
value.
there, right?
Yep.
There's something there that is worth moving the rock for. And it's like for 3 years, you're not going to see a dime. You're not going to see, you may see negativity. You're going to see challenges with the city. You're going to see, issues with your investors. You're going to see all these negative thoughts coming, right? So like to be able to steer a ship, right, for 3 years without making a dime, right, is challenging. So, I mean, kudos to you for doing that. But how do you, so let's get to beliefs, real quick. We've touched on it a little bit. Like, how do you make sure that your belief system is in place when you're dealing with a 3-year project that you're not going to see money from for a while?
Yeah, I think I'm very intentional with my morning routine. So I have a morning routine that involves meditation, a gratitude journal. I think gratitude is one of the most underlooked things. And the more you're grateful for, the more you get back, right? It's that law of, action, reaction, like it just comes back to you. So I think I'm pretty intentional about my morning routine that kind of helps set the day. And, we all get tilted, right? Like, I believe you live in 2 states, a beautiful state or a suffering state. And I'm very intentional about in my visualization that I read every morning, I want to live my life 95% in a beautiful state. And when I notice that I'm in a suffering state, I'm aware of it and do everything I can to shift back to a beautiful state. And, we all get triggered. And so just that awareness of when I feel a little bit anxious and, you go through this, you're going through 160 permits, you're going to get some anxiety. It's how do you shift back into the beautiful state?
I think that's a challenge for everybody. I think about gratitude a lot as well. At the Borchers dining room table every single night. We missed a couple nights this week. It's been busy with soccer, but we usually try to say, with the 4 of us, my wife, myself, my 2 kids, just like say one thing you're grateful for, because when you're grateful, you can't also at the same time be angry.
100%.
You have to fill, like it's like a cup,
So
right?
good.
You fill it up, right, with gratitude. You have to get rid of all that negativity, right? And I find myself at the end of the day sometimes where we've been hit by a lot of like things and challenges. It's like if I can take that moment and realize that I have an opportunity to change like my mindset here.
100%.
It's so powerful, right? Like I mean, and I don't know, how do you deal with that?
It's compartmentalization.
Yeah.
Got a lot of keys and a lot of rooms. Got a lot of stuff in there.
That's it. Oh yeah.
I was going to tell you one practice that I've incorporated to go along with the gratitude. I ask my kids, or when we break bread together with friends, what are you grateful for?
Yep.
Another practice that I've started is what's bringing you joy. And I ask everybody that, from Uber drivers to, a server at a restaurant. And you'd be surprised at the amount of people that they think about it and they're like, I don't know. Or, a lot of superficial, the weather's amazing, which is good, like to start the joy process.
Sure.
But that might be a dinner conversation topic. Like, what's bringing you joy? What brought you joy today? And just to get that.
Yeah.
Started.
As an experienced person in this, when someone says, I don't know, how do you respond to them with encouragement? What's your next challenge?
I try to pull on that thread a little bit more. There was a Uber driver that said nothing. And I was like, well, what do you really enjoy doing? And he made these little characters where he would paint the face with a cat whisker. He had a cat, and when the cat's whiskers would fall out, he would paint the faces. And then he started talking about that, and that was his joy. He just didn't know how to bring it up. And I think once we got him going on that, he just opened up. So I think pulling on the thread a little bit more and ask if I have time, like I'm in an Uber, I got time, let's talk about this. And I don't always have time to really pull on the thread, but
It's kind
I
of
love asking that question.
and it's kind of like not everybody's aware of it at the time. Like
Yes.
like you said, you have to be aware of your states, and if you're not aware of your state, somebody asks you that, you're just kind of like, whoa, I'm not really sure. I have no way to answer that. I want to ask you about like, because I love this thread. Like, is there any like I'm a big fan of like books, whether it's audio or the old school as they are now, even a YouTube video, on just like aspirational things, self help. Like, is there like if you were to choose like one book that was like this affected me so positively in my life, what would it be?
There's two really, but I'll give if you had to choose between the two, it'd be
Okay.
The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale.
Okay.
He was one of the pioneers in personal development, and he's just so wise. And then he was actually friends with Napoleon Hill, who wrote the
Yeah.
#1 success book of all time, Think and Grow Rich. So
I love.
I think it's those two books.
Yep.
Like if you were to pick either one of those, they're both amazing, but that's probably where I would go.
I love that.
They're just timeless, right?
Yeah.
They don't change. They haven't changed. Those principles, the personal development folks today, from Tony Robbins to all of them, use those principles way back when it was just getting started. Earl Nightingale started The Strangest Secret on a record. Like that's where it got started. And so that was forever ago.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how those things can be like so timeless, right?
Yes. There's so much going on up here. Got so many questions. How much time we got? This is good.
Yeah, so let's move into this. I want to talk about the store it,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Just the former Statesman Journal building that AJ knows so much about because it was how long was it listed for? 5 years? You said?
Well, yeah, maybe let me take the lead here. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions. So when you analyze that project, right, what were you looking at? What was your initial plan? And then like, how much did that change before your ribbon cutting?
So much.
That's a great question because
Yeah, there's a lot.
Whoa,
to
we've been
unpack
there.
there. So we have a due diligence process. We have a system where we take a project and go all the way through from, demand. What's the demand in the market? What are the other storage facilities, and who's our competition, and can we get it zoned for storage? There's the whole process, and that's where we start. And then this project is super exciting for us because it's the first project that we took on investors. We'd done all the other projects just me.
Okay.
Putting in the capital, and this one we actually brought on investors. So it added a new layer of stewardship and like really, being a good steward of the money. It was friends and family that we raised. So like I'm very motivated to help them get some financial independence through real estate. And so yeah, that's another layer. Another layer is we typically don't go in urban markets. So this was super exciting, being a block away from the state capitol, being next to the Y, a $30 million building. We love that. And then we're doing some lockers in there. We had high ceilings, and we typically don't do lockers. This is the first project with lockers, but in a downtown core, it makes sense because maybe someone only needs a small space for Christmas and Easter decorations and some camping gear, small camping gear. So we have some tiny little lockers that we haven't done before.
You described that like even like for like college kids, right?
Yeah, college kids.
And I mean, and we're talking about like a little, like small little square rectangular
4 by
space
4.
above.
Yep.
Yeah, above where the normal like storage space area is. I think that's such a smart utilization of the space. And what are you charging for like something like that? Like that little
That's
4 by
above my
4?
pay grade.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I can tell you that we're competitive.
Yeah.
We do our market research. Like we don't want to be the highest price. We don't want to be the lowest price, but we want to be in that sweet spot. And it's climate controlled, and we have a lot of security measures. So I like to think that we're different than a lot of storage facilities. And we're very intentional with people's belongings being safe.
I didn't ask this question yet. Why self-storage?
Yeah, so we'll go back to dentistry now. So that patient that came in, he had a lot of different businesses, and he had a lot of freedom, and I love the idea of his freedom. He owned ranches in Oregon. He owned hunting lodges, fishing lodges, a logging company, a recycling company, and about 5 self-storage facilities. And every time he came in, he said, self-storage, if I could get rid of everything, self-storage is what I would do. And that really resonated with me with,
Mm-hmm.
the ease of complexity. You don't have in multifamily, you have, toilets, termites,
Mhm.
tenants, and we have tenants, but it's a different set of laws around a storage facility versus a multifamily. So all of those things really drew me to that. And I've played around in a lot of different businesses from, I owned a home healthcare agency, the car washes. I started a dental assisting school when I was doing dentistry. I had a junk removal business. And after going through that, I realized we need to really focus and just stay in our lane with self storage. So now that's all we do is self storage.
Finding your niche, right?
Yep.
That's kind of like where you're at.
Focus, stay in
Yeah.
your lane. I don't
Mhm.
understand these words, but I
you
need to
talk a
learn.
good game.
What one of my mentors said, where your focus goes, energy flows. So we
Yeah.
try to be hyper focused on that, just so we put our energy into that.
So you said with your investor, you raised money for this project.
Yep.
We've raised money for projects, and it's always, I think, really exciting when you get to bring like friends and family into deals. How has that process been for this particular project? Like, how have you communicated, and what's been, what's kind of been the takeaway for you?
I think I'm excited about it. We do a quarterly newsletter. If an investor calls, I pick up the phone, and I'm excited about helping them create wealth.
An investor calls, you pick up the phone. I love that. I'm gonna write that. I'm gonna write that down. I love that. And yeah, for all of us who have investors, I think it's so important. You give them the communications, right, and you're there for them. You're present with them. I have to remind myself of that. I've got investors that go back to 10 years, right, and it's
Mhm.
like they've been with me so long. Sometimes I forget, and it's like every year we make sure we give them a token of appreciation, right around Thanksgiving. But the check-ins, the regular check-ins, are so important. This building right here, I walked this building, and I hadn't seen it before. You guys had got your hands on it, and I could kind of imagine what it used to be. But can you explain the different decades that are in there, the different eras? Because I was so intrigued by that part of it.
Yeah, it was a 50s build. And then in 1970, they added another portion. And
Okay.
then in 90s, they added another portion. So there's really 3 portions to that building, which imposes a lot of challenges, right? Like structural and like all sorts of things that go into getting it up to code and getting it well, you guys know.
Like you have a code for the 50s era, right? You have the code for the 70s era. You have to get up to then the 90s are a little easier, but
Yep.
it's like and there's a portion of this building that still needs to be figured out, right?
Yes.
How many square feet is that?
I think it's about 14,000 square feet that we're trying to lease to an office tenant.
Okay.
It's basically a blank canvas right now. It's just we demoed the building, that portion of it,
Mhm.
and it's ready to rebuild and turn into something amazing.
Awesome. AJ, I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts on that space.
No dear.
Yeah, it's we usually have to pay AJ for his time for this, but he's gonna
Never.
I'm just
No,
kidding.
but I have a question after that. Yeah, I'm going to pick your storage brain.
Good.
If we have time. Yeah, a 14,000 square foot office space is very difficult right now. What's your parking ratio?
I don't know how many I mean, we have parking obviously that we're just leasing to the Y right now. So I don't know how many spots exactly. I think it's 25 spots. We don't need a lot for storage, obviously. People come in, load, unload, and they're not all coming in at the same time. So our parking requirement was much different for storage, but I think there's 20 or 25. That's above my pay grade too.
In a core, parking's gold, right? In parking in robo taxi, Tesla taxi may change that by 2030. So I don't know if the future is going to look like the past has.
Yep.
But when we're evaluating solutions and trying to figure out what to do, we're looking at parking needs and how do we transform. And so the problem with office infrastructure is you look at it and you see all the walls, you see that it's there. Lipstick, you can handle lipstick. Like how do we not tear it all out and start fresh? There's got to be some value here, right?
Yeah.
When we're looking at inventory right now, office has not recovered from COVID. Core office is still struggling. We're moving people out of the core in a lot of cases. That being said, the key office that is moving is 1,500 square feet or less.
I
And
see.
so what we've done is said, well, let's come up with plans and let's paper those plans. Let's not do any of the improvements. Let's see if we can get someone on the hook or at least test the demand.
Yep.
So the tough part that we run into is there's no market study like a storage report.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
a crystal ball, and you talk to some guy like me, and I'll tell you everything you want to hear or don't want to hear, and some of it's based on a true story, and then we'll see if I'm right, And it's a
Yeah.
crystal ball. But in that scenario, as I'm thinking through what would I do with office structure, office infrastructure, and a core, I generally go to 2 or 3 basic business plans, right? Most people say, put it on the market for lease, try to find a tenant. That's one way to do it. There's another business plan I call boil the frog. See if you can give it away for a year to someone that could stay. Like what value can you bring?
Uh-huh.
What is there? Is there a consortium, that is next to you of potential uses, whether it's nonprofits that could get your taxes down? So by give it away, sometimes having a nonprofit in there at $1 a month already is a cash flow positive for you in an interim. And there's improvements that are made.
That's interesting.
And so I always look at how do I not limit the long term, but have an immediate return. And then, the reinvention, if we were to peel this out, what is actually moving? And so I was a part of the 45th Parallel that Nat owns. And there was an innovative owner, Mike Tevis, who has now, moved his assets to New York while he's still trying to get out of Portland. But and what I've learned is that, especially when you travel abroad, humans don't have a square foot need. They have a budget, and they're trying to maximize the value they can get within their budget. So micro everything is kind of where we've landed. And in that zone specifically, there is things that I would call maker spaces, right? And those maker spaces have a hard time landing because of their budget. They don't really need office infrastructure. They need power. You might have power because you're not utilizing with your
Yep.
storage.
Oh, we got lots of
So you
power.
probably got lots of power. And so my head's going towards some sort of a maker space that may have a cooperative with SEDCOR, may have a cooperative with startup businesses, may have a cooperative where you're trading rent in lieu of, let's call it ownership. They can buy you out by repaying rent. And what are those creative business structures? And this is going way too complicated.
Way too complicated.
But but it's also relationship development. And I'm like, is it really if you're just giving a space and then you're just changing what your return is? And I would always still try to find the right solution for 14,000 square feet.
Yeah.
I would always still try to break it up and do what are natural breaks?
Yeah.
Is it 4, 5, and 5? Is it 3 and 11? Like, what are your natural breaks?
Yep.
And then, within your constraints, what can you give? And your power, to me, is the one thing that, that maybe there is. You take a look at the Y right next door. What are the strategic relationships that have big accounts? Do they print a lot of T-shirts every year? Is the local T-shirt person that they're using, what's their lease look like? And you kind of go up the food chain of the supply houses that are already engaged with your neighbors.
Yep.
Here's a fun one. You got a meeting next Wednesday because there's an 80,000 square foot office building right next to Willamette University, Sassy Onion, the Capitol. The state was a tenant. The investor out of Hawaii bought it. There's some issues going on there because they was told the state was renewing and the state didn't renew. So
Which
now
is
it's empty.
crazy, by the way.
80,000
To buy
square
to
feet.
buy a building, thinking there's a tenant that's going to be in there, you're going to be getting some
A
rent.
$20 million building.
Yeah.
And then to have that cash flow dry up. And so, we're second or third in the food chain here, but I got the referral because they're like, hey, you need a crazy broker. So talk to AD. He's crazy. And I was
go
like,
down
well,
the list. Who's going to be our guy?
And
It's
I
this
go
guy.
through the processes, and I was like, well, Willamette University, it could be student housing, but your cost to renovate that, it could be multifamily, but your cost to renovate doesn't make sense. It could be a hotel, but your cost, its parking ratio, also a problem. So parking's a problem. Who's the neighbor? State Capitol. Oh. Well, the intermittent needs that never want. So the great part about your business and the tough part is it's month to month. When you're looking for an office tenant, you want 5 years.
Yeah.
So the market that we serve is after actually that 6 to 12 month leasing that then grows into term, but it is your PACs and it is your lobbyist community. I was like, they already have parking permits at the Capitol. They already live there. They're already walking back and forth. If we redesign this with individual offices, meeting rooms, a couple conference rooms, a couple 1,500 square footers, right? Some that are just individuals with names on the door. If you're a lobbyist, PAC, right? There's nothing that is the PAC building. There's nothing built specifically to host events, host the parties that are at the Capitol that can't travel, that can't get in a car, that can't go 6-7 blocks away, but you're a block away. So I get to pitch him next week and say, it's going to be great. Just put another $4 or $5 million into this. Trust me, I got a good crystal ball.
That's what I love about asking AJ questions too. Is you start in one place, you end up in another. But he's got a beautiful mind for this kind of stuff. And I guess I'm not sorry I asked the question, but I love the response and I like the creativity. And I think one of the things I love about the space we're in is there's so much creativity, right? In terms of and what we have to do in terms of adaptive reuse in downtown cores. Like these are the types of conversations we have to be having with anybody in any other markets. Portland being a big one, 30-40% vacancy right now with office buildings. There's other cities that have these situations, and so like we have to be really creative with this process, and it takes time. And what you're talking about is it's more operationally demanding than it is to do like self-storage, for example, because you have to fill these spaces intermittently with these tenants, with these uses, and you're not going to probably have a longer term lease, right?
Well, and you don't have the support because the broker market's only chasing what pays them. Those short-term leases don't pay them.
Right, exactly.
That was why I was the sixth broker at 45th Parallel, and I think I'm just a glutton for punishment because
you are.
There is no money there. I think we did 107 leases over that period of time, and I probably got paid about the same as you'd have been paid to do 10 leases on the open market.
Yep.
So you're doing all the same amount of work. It's probably like selling a mobile home versus a regular home, right? Yeah. You're now in the mobile home market, and in commercial, when you take 3 years to learn the skills and get into the business, so you lose your support systems when you start to do those business plans, and you have to reinvent and create now a leasing company. You have to create.
Yeah, that's outside of our lane. That's why
totally which is what I love about you being so focused, because I've learned with 45th Parallel building and getting into other investments that operators are so important, right? And sometimes to fill spaces, you have to be the operator. And so, like with our event space, for example, we created this event space at the 45th Parallel building, and this portion of the building that just wasn't performing, and it was like, I've never done this before. Now I have to create something new, right? It's an event space. I love to throw parties. Let's just do it, right? See what happens. And it's kind of like that, that mentality you have to create and fill these spaces. I'm curious on that note, like we're talking about downtown Salem and adaptive reuse and what you did with this building, which is, it's beautiful. I recommend anybody to go check it out and see what they did with the building and the different, eras in that building. But what do you see for downtown Salem? And what did you see with this investment? Like, why did you come here and why are you going to stay?
I think initially I came for the opportunity.
Yeah.
I knew that I could add value to that project, but the more I live in Portland, and Portland is a disaster. It's, there's micro improvements, but it's still a disaster. And when I come to Salem and see how alive it is, to see what you guys have done in the building here, like it is amazing. And there's just a lot of good things happening in here. There's a lot of growth. There's a lot of multifamily projects coming in, which really fits into our model well, self-storage. The units are getting smaller and smaller, which means you don't have storage. So our small storage spaces tie really well into that. But it's a big city with a small town feel to me.
That's a good way to put it. What do you foresee for the future of Salem? I mean, obviously you're probably not down here as often, as we are, but when you walk around downtown Salem, like what are your takeaways from like downtown, from being down here?
Well, I love that there's not a Starbucks on every corner, and there's unique coffee shops and unique restaurants like you guys did upstairs in the clean space. And I love that. I love the creativeness and the newness of cool new things happening.
What is in your future now? Now that you had this another successful project, brought investors in, are we stopping here? Wade, are we just going to be like, hey, this is it? We're going to right into the sunset. I get the feeling you're not that kind of guy. Where do we go next from here?
So we just put a property in Coachella under contract, and our goal as a company is to do 3 to 5 self-storage projects a year, either ground up or conversions. And we like the West Coast, so Oregon, Washington, California is kind of where we go, and that's our sweet spot. So no, we're gonna keep going, and we have a coach that comes in every quarter to help us with our strategic planning and keeps us all accountable. And hey, you guys said you were gonna do this. Did you execute on that? So that's been really helpful, and that's in our plan to do 3 to 5 projects every year.
Wow. I love that. Well,
I want to steal something from your brain real quick.
Okay.
ooh,
I love it.
uh-oh.
I think so. I'm going to tease something that's kind of out there, but now it's going to be really out there.
We call AJ TMI as well. and
Yeah,
it's
right.
Fine. It's fine. Yeah, he does.
Vulnerability and the
Yeah.
5%. Like
So
this
that's
is
what
part
we-
of my business.
that's why we love
group,
him.
What we do, 5%. Like I love it.
So it's a storage issue. Okay. Have you ever dealt with beverage storage?
We haven't. Wine storage is something that we've considered and looked at, but we have not jumped in. There's a whole nother layer. Like it's in our lane, but it's a little bit outside of our lane. You have to have redundancies and backup generators, because if you lose power and humidity and temperature control for, $5 million worth of wine, you're on the hook. And we haven't jumped into that yet.
Well, and this is going to be one step down the rung. And so I'm just curious, because when you go to your conventions, you may have seen, but this is more, so you saw the second level next door, Clink, right? The Women's Collective, and very excited about that floor, but there was a yin and yang that was always part of the project. And so on the lower level, there's an event venue, Cellar 54, that's coming out. And then there's a private bourbon and wine lair.
Lair. I love that.
Lair.
word. Lair.
And
You might get,
I
you
love
might get,
that.
you might get caught there.
yeah, no,
Lair.
there's a secret password, and if you don't know it, you can't come in. But in that, I'm looking at innovative technology, which is mainly technology, right? But for locker storage and for little wine cellar storage, but the brief concept is, sure, the main part is probably cabinetry. And the locking system, thumbprint, probably retinal scan to get in, right? Like what cool, innovative technology with a backup plan, right? But can you bring in that gets to just feel fun? That's one piece. But right now what we're looking at is, and there's humidity issues, but the good news is it's in a lower level, right? So temperature's pretty even keel. Even the humidity's pretty even keel. If we lose power, it's not, right? It's in a pretty good area. And I'm wondering how I can have, because we're in the center of the wine area, storage that is 4x8, 4x10, 5x10, strategically and specifically planned around as if you were the wine doors that you open up, your own private cellars for these collections, for these libraries, whether it's the Vineyards Library or the personal library attached to this lair.
So I would encourage you to go. There's a wine storage, Willamette Wine Storage, that my girlfriend actually pays for a wine locker there.
Okay.
And then they have like a little lounge, so people can come get wine out of their locker, and there's a TV, and it's like a social spot.
Wait,
So
where is it?
It's in Northwest Portland, right at the end of 23rd.
Okay.
Willamette Wine Storage. I think Lake Oswego has one. I
Yeah,
would
they
go
do.
to some of those. Like the one that she rents, it's just plywood. It's not the model you're talking about, but you'll kind of get a sense of how they have it laid out, how they have lockers.
Yep.
But there is some, like, you can spend all sorts of money to really juice it up, or something simple with just humidity and temperature control. So, but I think having like a space to get everybody to get a bottle out of their locker and kind of come together, and it's almost like a community. Like they meet like every Friday, Saturday. There's a group there that bringing out really fancy bottles, and I've been with her several times. It's cool, and I like the idea. It's just a bit out of our lane, so that's why we haven't.
So one recommendation, thank you, Willamette Wine Storage. Check out other competition. Go down that path.
Yep.
But I look at this like your lockers. Like, what systems do you use? Like, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. Is this a private club issue, or is this just a public offering? What systems or technology do you use? I would imagine if they're renting a locker, they're finding you online. They're almost booking online.
Yep.
Like, what's that system look like?
So we have a Da Vinci lock, it's called. So someone can rent a unit, get access into the building. It'll text them a code for their lock, and they can do the lock itself without anybody being there.
Love
But I
that.
think the Willamette Wine Storage, if you guys ever want to come, I'm happy to host you, and I'll have to get my girlfriend to take us in there, but walk
Field
around
trip time.
and check it out.
Yeah.
But
Love
you don't
that.
have to be that sophisticated. You don't like, you can just, everybody has their own lock, or you sell locks and here's a lock.
Yeah.
You don't need to have, a fingerprint or, a lock like we do where it's all remote. You can do that.
Yeah.
It just adds another layer of cost.
What's the balance between, because upfront cost is one thing, variable cost is a second, right? And from an investor mindset, I'll invest upfront if it helps me fill quicker. I can get an extra $5 a locker, and I have X amount of lockers, and the locker is what got me interested. Because when you're dealing with lockers, it's making me wonder in a downtown core, is that what your office, 14,000 square feet, churns into? What other? Here's a good example. Could the Da Vinci lock system work if you just needed an office for a week or a month? Could it work on office space? Could your current infrastructure in signing up for something, right? I'm in town for 3 weeks and I need so the Airbnb meets. How does this?
Yeah. I haven't thought that much through. I've
Oh,
taken
yeah.
the
I think
least
we're onto something
resistant
here. Look at this.
route about turning it over to a broker, like just lease this 14,000 square foot out, because we can't do, our original plan was to do storage on the entire first floor.
Yep.
When the $3 million grant fell through on the nonprofits on that first floor. But we couldn't get all of it. We got a variance to get, 30,000 feet of it in storage on the first floor. So that's our phase 2 plan. But that 14,000 feet,
At this point, you're pushing.
yeah.
In 18 months, we'll see. Yeah, my phone is always available. I prefer to ghost that one. I don't want to take lead on this one. But free support anytime. So
Yeah. Well, that's. Thank you so much for being on the podcast with us, Wayde. Is there anywhere that, for anybody watching or listening, can find you that you'd want to be found, or do you want to be a ghost?
No, we've been super intentional with our social media. So I post a lot, like I'll go to a seminar or a workshop and bring that knowledge back and post it on both YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. So we're on all of them, and it's Wayde Elliot DMD. So it's WAYDE Elliot, ELLIOTT DMD. And we're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, all of that. And we're being very intentional with getting content out that will help in the growth mindset.
So the DMD part, before I let you go, you're still keeping the medical the little addition at the end. Is that right?
Well, I got that forever ago, and rather than change everything, I just
It makes you sound smarter, which is great.
I'm going to use Grok to find out what DMD stands for now in self-storage. I'm going to send you a couple options. But my takeaways today, and I really want to say thank you. Like I've taken from this beliefs. I'm going to do a lot more research on that. Awesome. And where your focus goes, energy flows. That is burned into my. There's a few people in my life, maybe, associated with these projects. I'm going to remind of that one statement. Chris Blackburn, if you're listening.
Gratitude?
Gratitude.
That's a big takeaway.
Joy. Yeah.
What maybe we can start our next meeting off with what's brought you joy?
Oh, I
recently.
love that.
And
That
we'll
would
see,
bring me joy.
We'll see what's going around the room on Wednesday.
Done. Wednesday
It's
meeting.
happening.
That is around the room, and we'll see who doesn't immediately respond to that.
Yeah, I think there might be some pain, but we'll shift the awareness. So, Wayde Elliot, thank you so much. You've been such a pleasure to chat with you. You've got the best, I think, out of both of us, which is awesome. And our listeners, subscribers are going to love seeing this. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate the time that you guys put into this. And this is an amazing setup you guys have. I'm super impressed. And thank you for having me.
Cheers to Kathleen, our producer. And thank you, everybody, for listening.